Yeah. So it's like putting on that mask on the airplane before your kid. Yeah, you gotta you gotta take care of yourself so that you can take care of everybody else. Welcome to Cover Your Assets, your podcast for navigating the financial side of divorce. I'm Joseph De Cruz, and I am here with my co-host, Jade Eagles.
Life doesn't always deal you the best hand, but we're here to help you CYA in every way, because when it comes to your assets, it's all about playing your cards right.
What are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about fantasies.
Ooh, I love me some fantasies.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of fantasies, Jade?
Well, we have got a podcast about divorce, so it's going to...
There's
maybe not those sort of fantasies there, so...
Well, let's see. Are you fantasizing about just getting out of this marriage, walking away from it all and just starting over with nothing more than your suitcase, the clothes on your back?
That's a classic fantasy.
Or
are you fantasizing about getting revenge?
Yes.
Taking every penny and making the other person pay dearly
for what they did to you.
Or maybe didn't.
Or what you did to them.
Yeah.
All
Wait,
right.
It's your fantasy. It's what they did to you.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, fantasies are great. Fantasies are great. Could be a good coping mechanism, sometimes necessary to get through your hour, get through your day.
That difficult time, yeah.
Yeah.
But
they are just fantasies.
Yeah.
So today
leave them in Disneyland or Disney World.
I don't know if those types of fantasies fit there, but whatever.
Okay, yeah.
But today we're going to talk about your emotions as it relates to the divorce process.
Yeah. And we're going to kind of touch on, I guess recognizing those those emotional stresses, and potential impact that they could have on financial decision making.
Or any logical decision making as it relates to your divorce. We'll also talk about coping strategies, fantasies included, and seeking professionals for emotional support and how this can ultimately help you with your financial well-being.
Yeah, and I think that's important because, addressing and working through those emotions and finances as it relates to divorce, they're kind of equally important.
Yes. Let's bring in a cooking analogy.
Yeah. So for my cooks out there who likes to cook, have you ever tried to make a mayonnaise from scratch there and you get the splitting of the fats, as you're making it?
Oil and water. Right.
Well,
both are clear ingredients.
That's right. Yeah. But in this case, you actually
separately.
You do want them to split. So you actually don't want it to emulsify.
We want to keep them separate. So oil and water are clear to look through when they are separate and distinct. But if you mix it up, it gets kind of muddy and opaque, right? So emotions and finances, if you can, keep them separate.
Yeah.
All right.
So here's a little interesting little tidbit for you. So something came out of psychology today that you found that where divorce, it's 95% emotional.
It's a gigantic
Who would have thought?
Elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Giant.
Yeah.
So it demands your attention. You're not going to squash it. You're not going to ignore it. It does demand your attention. So let's give it that.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into it there. So I think where maybe we want to start off is talking about, those emotional stages of divorce. And I think everyone's probably heard about the different stages of grief.
Five stages of grief. Right.
Don't ask me what they are, but I've heard of it before.
So similarly, divorce has similar stages. A couple additional ones.
And we're going to kind of go through them in a order, but you might experience them in a different order. You might
repeat them.
You might, constantly go back to a stage, or you might sit in a stage for an extended period of time.
Right. So even though we might assign numbers to these stages, it doesn't mean there's an order necessarily. So stage 1
is shock and denial.
Stage 2, fear.
Yeah. Stage 3 is anger.
Stage 4, bargaining.
And 5 is guilt.
Stage 6, extreme sadness and grief.
And 7 is
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
So I did experience shock and denial for stage 1 when I found out what I found out, and I will keep that to myself out of respect to my ex-spouse. But yes, I did experience that initially. And then I think stage 2, fear, and stage 4, bargaining, I actually sat in a combination of that for probably a year. So meaning I was scared of what would happen, what this meant for our marriage. Could I leave? Should I not? That was really scary.
Should you leave? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I felt like, could you leave?
Could you leave? But then should you?
I felt like I didn't know if I could. Right. And the bargaining, interestingly enough, was with myself more so than my ex-spouse. I kept bargaining with myself. I could put up with this. I could deal with that. Maybe would it be fine with me to just go along with this for the rest of my life? Can I forgive and forget for the sake of the kids? Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me, and I need to deal with myself. This is my fault. So I did a lot of that for about a year. And then weirdly enough, after that, when I decided to get a divorce, I jumped to acceptance, right? I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. I can get through this divorce. And then again, it just weirdly for me, right? Everybody has their unique process and order. At the end, when the divorce was over, that's when I had my sadness and grief. Like it was the death, right? Mourning the death of my marriage that came at the end. So even though I wanted it, I went through that sadness and that grief like it's over. How about you? What'd you experience?
So you're saying that sadness and that grief didn't come in even little bits earlier on though for you?
I mean, little bits here and there, but I think it really hit me at the end when it was finished.
Yeah. For me, I think it was acceptance earlier on. Just going, you know what, this is what I'm wanting. I'm committed to it. Maybe there was some fear of like, can I do this? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be able to support my son? What's that going to look like? Fear
of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. And so I'm, plotting out all these different, well, if this happens or that happens or how this is going to, my family's all back in Australia. So I think, maybe that fear did come from myself. But I think then once I kind of, went through it in my head a few times there was that acceptance where it's like, you know what? I'm not going to really be able to control the unknown. I'm not going to be able to control some of these hypotheticals, whether they're some fantasies or just the unknown, like how's the other person going to react or what's going to happen, or having seen other divorces play out, is that going to happen to me? I think it's this acceptance of it for me at that point. And it's like, let's try and make this try and make the best case scenario out of it, okay? And we've spoken about beforehand about, I guess, having the best post-divorce or, best post-relationship there. So I think that came next for me. So, so there was that anger and I guess, some of that bargaining, whether or not like, hey, can we make this work or what would be needed to make this work? There was some anger in there as we kind of got into dealing with some of the finances.
Yeah, there always is some anger. I didn't mention that, but yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
And I've mentioned this beforehand. I think it got to the point where it's like, you know what, I want you to have what you've got there, and I'll keep what I've got, and we'll just kind of move on there, because I was trying to still, at that point in time, I was trying to think of the big picture of like post divorce. We've got a young child together, so we're going to be, like it or not, we're going to be stuck with each other in a co-parenting relationship, and I wanted to have that in the best co-parenting possible there. So
that's part of your acceptance.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So that was kind of mine. A little long-winded there. Sorry.
No, all good. All good. So we're mentioning these stages because we want our listeners to think about them and just keep in mind how they can, each stage or some stages can potentially influence your ability to make logical decisions regarding your finances. legalities as well, right? So just some examples from people that we know, right? So for example, have a friend of a friend that was pretty much stuck in stage 1 shock and denial, or mostly denial, was hanging out there for about 4 years, right? Dragging out her divorce by delaying the process and hoping things would change.
Yeah.
Right. And that took a very long time for her to get through that. Right.
Because I guess part of the thinking was, we can make this work, or I can make the other person make this work.
I think she was probably in denial and bargaining, right? So she was not kind of looking through the finances very carefully, because she just was hoping that things would stay rosy and nice and maybe turn.
Which is, and it's understandable, because, depending on how long you've been married for, it could be decades. And if you've got all this history, you could have children at different ages there. So it's like,
they could have been the only two people that they were the only people that they were with each other. Mm-hmm. Like they were each other's first everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, it's understandable, but just again, giving you these examples to potentially identify in yourself, like, oh, am I doing this? So anger is a common one, right? And unfortunately, know another person where she's experiencing revenge, right? Revenge from the other spouse, unfortunately, through their child.
Yeah.
Right? Because it became like a win-lose situation. You want to leave me? I'm going to hurt you.
They've really kind of weaponized the child.
Weaponize the child, weaponize the money, weaponize the assets, you name it.
Everything's kind of, in that situation, it can, for other situations like that, it can always be about fighting.
Yeah.
And I think you even see that on some billboards with like divorce attorneys. They're like aggressive, like, we will fight. And it's like,
yes, there is a San Diego divorce firm that is very aggressive and looking for those angry divorces. So guilt or extreme sadness, this could be like whereas anger is fighting, right? Guilt or extreme sadness could lead to flight, right? Give up on everything. And I'm not talking about suicide. We're not going there, but give up everything material and just say, you know what?
Take it all.
Just take it all. I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this. Maybe it'll go away faster if I just sign off on everything.
Yeah.
All right. And then bargaining. So bargaining, where perhaps you're trying to win the other person back by changing yourself, shortchanging yourself and saying, I'll be better. This was my fault. I can change this.
I'm a leopard. I'm going to change my,
Yeah. All of
change with what?
I didn't change for 13 years, but today I'm going to, because now you want to leave me. Right.
And look, there's going to be cases, I think, where maybe someone can change, but some of those deep rooted behaviors and tendencies, it's going to be a tough order. Yeah.
It's tough. And
even if it's momentarily, like, are they going to?
Yeah. Do you change all of a sudden just because someone's going to dump you after you've been asking for years?
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Right. So these are just little examples, big examples that we've seen over the years, firsthand, secondhand, where it does muddy that water, the oil in the water getting mixed, where it potentially leads people to not be able to make logical choices in, decision making regarding their divorce. And it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about
how to cope with that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think identifying, what are realistic, what are fantasies for a start? And
identifying your emotions.
Yeah.
And a lot of those get played out in fantasies, daydreaming.
Yeah.
Right. And just identifying like, ooh, that was a funny one. What kind of, which stage was I fantasizing about? And acknowledging it and living in it, right? It's okay to feel every stage.
Yeah, like giving yourself permission
don't deny
feel these. But I think, an important part of it is then also talking to whether they be trusted family members, trusted friends, or a trusted professional. I think it's important not always to have someone to be your cheerleader.
Cheerleaders are great. They play a role.
Yeah.
But maybe a variety of trusted people, right? some that are just there to listen.
Because unfortunately, the cheerleader might, back up your fantasy there.
Cheer your anger.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, having a variety of people on your side, yes, maybe as a cheerleader, yes, as a listener, but maybe to call you out gently as well, right? So calling you out, speaking of that, is I think people need to control that urge, right? We all feel it. We all feel it at some point, I think. Control, and I'm going to use a bad word, I'm sorry. Control that urge to shit talk.
Yeah.
All right?
Bit of smack talk.
Yeah. Oh, smack talk. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
No shit.
Even if you're right, even if for sure you're right, control it. Just know that whatever you put out in the public can't be taken away.
Yeah.
If you have kids, your kid's going to find it eventually.
That's normally
somehow.
When they're hearing always, you could be asking them to do a job around the house, can't hear you. You talk some smack talk, I reckon their ears pick up straight away and it's like, whoop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about like smack talk on social media too. I think there's always this urge to talk smack, even for a second.
For that victory.
Or just to let everyone know what a bad person they were and you were the victim. Don't do it. Don't do it. You know what? You can smack talk in your journal or in your diary. Lock it up. Yeah. But it's okay to write it down. But please don't air the dirty laundry.
Which can be hard. So vent.
Vent. And then if you don't have the right set of family and friends, and even if you do, I think investing in a therapist, and I say investing because I understand therapists and counselors, there's a cost, and sometimes it can be expensive and it can feel like, why? It's only emotions. No, emotions are 95% of the divorce. Invest in a professional and vent to that person.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the person who you can vent to.
You can vent to, and you know what? It's an investment because if you can unload on this professional that has to listen to everything, right? That could clear your head to make more logical decisions about your divorce in other areas, like legal, financial, and parenting aspects of your divorce. And that's a good investment, right, in yourself.
Yeah, and hopefully that therapists can kind of maybe call BS on some of your
or help you,
venting.
Call
or
BS,
reframe things,
help you get more positive, or help you identify areas for yourself to work on. Yeah, perhaps I have a good friend going through some trauma therapy right now, so she's working through that and she's investing in herself to be a better person. Yeah, right. Not that she was a bad person, but to be just a better version of herself so that she can be happier on her own.
No, it's definitely important. And we spoke about taking care of yourself and
self-care.
Yeah, self-care beforehand. But
yeah, so it's like putting on that mask on the airplane before your kid. You gotta take care of yourself so that you can take care of everybody else. So investing in a professional to help you emotionally, so important. And yes, it's going to cost money. That's okay.
So I guess hopefully you get some value out of today. Yeah. We're kind of dealing and talking about the emotional stresses and the impact that they can have on going through the divorce process.
Big elephant in the room. Give it the attention it deserves.
Yeah. And, not as you mentioned earlier, 95% of divorces,
95% of a divorce
is emotional.
Yes.
So let's really focus on getting the right support and the right team for you around there, and maybe not just always having a cheerleader there to go for you. And I think we spoke about recognizing the different stages of divorce. We spoke about how they're not necessarily everyone's going to experience it in the same order. You might repeat things. You might dwell and, you
might hang out in a stage for a while. And all of that is okay. Stages don't come in order.
Yeah. And
but it is important to identify the stages when you're in them. Live in it, work it out, feel it, but identify it and try to keep that oil and water separate.
Yeah. And I guess just quickly, the impact of some of those stages as well, like, the potential influences.
How it could potentially influence or color your judgment.
Yeah.
And how to try to take that step back so that you can stay logical and be emotional, but separately as much as you can. right? Now, divorce, this or that.
All right.
Have you figured one out? I have.
I thought of one quickly. Yeah. You want to go first then?
Yeah, I had to Google image this because I just don't know the names of Google search image. Yeah, I'm really technologically savvy.
Did you get the kids to show you how to do that?
No.
Okay.
All right. Divorce, this or that. Plant edition.
Oh.
I don't even know if I'm saying this right. Monstera? Is that right?
Yeah. There's different sorts.
Okay, Monstera or that coin-looking plant. I think it's called a Chinese money plant or good luck plant. Which one? Because you have a million of each. So
that's
ditch
it.
Ditch one of them.
I would get rid of the money one.
You're gonna get rid of your money?
No, the money plant.
You know that is good luck. What's gonna happen there?
Whatever. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fine.
So that's the one I would get rid of because the other one comes in many different varieties. Has some nice, cool,
It's trending.
Yeah, it's
I think they have good foliage. I feel like I don't follow the pattern. Trends. The pattern shows up on beach towels and bed sheets and stuff, and
I think I
Monsteras.
bought a beach pop-up tent with it actually on it. But
all right.
All right. So I've got one for you.
Okay.
Got to get rid of one. Morning coffee or an evening wine? I know you like both.
I feel like we had a similar.
I hope I haven't reused that.
I'm going to get rid of morning coffee because I can have morning black tea.
Oh. Well, hopefully I haven't reused that one again. So.
No, I think you said tea or coffee before.
Okay. All right.
But I will substitute with morning tea and then mid-morning coffee.
Okay.
Bam. All right. On that note, we are at the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed our fantasies. Just kidding. As a quick reminder, we will be back in a couple of weeks.
Yep. Talk to you then. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Cover Your Assets with your hosts, Joseph Cruz and Jade Eagles. Jade and Joe are advisors of the Wealth Garden FS, an SEC registered investment advisor. The information is general and educational in nature and should not be considered financial, tax, or legal advice. It is not intended to serve as a substitute for personalized advice or as a recommendation or solicitation of any particular security, strategy, or investment product. Please consult with a qualified professional about your individual situation.
Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where the Wealth Garden Financial Services and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advice may be rendered by the Wealth Garden Financial Services unless a client service agreement is in place.